I was pregnant when my husband vanished. Weeks later, I found out he'd moved in with my best friend. When I called, he said, it was always her. You were just the placeholder. She sent me a picture of them in my wedding bed. I disappeared from their lives until their baby shower, when I arrived with a lawyer, a nurse, and a folder labeled. I guess I'll start from the beginning, because I need to get this out. I'm not even sure who I am anymore, but maybe writing it down will help. I was 32, living in St. Louis, Missouri. I worked as a nurse at Barnes Jewish Hospital, doing 12-hour shifts on the surgical floor. Mark, my husband, was a sales manager for a regional auto dealership. We'd been married for 5 years. I was 7 months pregnant when all of this happened. That night, I remember everything. I woke up around 2 in the morning because I had to pee. Pregnancy life, right? When I came back to bed, his side was empty. His phone was gone from the charger. His keys weren't on the hook. I thought maybe he went out for a drive or something, but when I checked the driveway, his car was gone too. At first, I told myself not to panic. Mark worked long hours, maybe he was called for something. Maybe he had a late meeting or just needed space. I waited all night, but he didn't come home. I called and texted, but his phone went straight to voicemail. I started calling around, his work, his friends, the hospitals, even the police. No one had seen him. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. A week went by. No sign of him. The car was gone. His clothes, some of them, were missing. But most of his stuff was still there, like he'd planned it to look like he'd be back. I was a mess, alone, huge, pregnant, scared, and angry. My friends tried to console me, but I was barely holding it together. Then one night, I got a text from a mutual friend, Kelsey. She sent me a photo, no caption. When I opened it, my stomach twisted. It was Mark, grinning like he didn't have a care in the world, holding hands with my best friend Lisa. They were in some cozy-looking living room. I recognized the couch, it was Lisa's apartment. I called Mark immediately. I didn't care what time it was. When he finally answered, his voice was cold, distant, like I was a stranger. I asked him what the hell was going on. His answer burned into my brain, it was always her. You were just the placeholder. That's all he said. No apology. No explanation. Just that. Lisa followed up, like she wanted to twist the knife even more. She sent me a picture of them, together, in my bed. My wedding bed. The bed we bought together when we got married. It was like they were daring me to fall apart. And I did. For the next few weeks, I barely existed. I stopped answering calls. I shut out my friends. I stopped going to work, I took leave because I couldn't stop crying long enough to function. My baby was growing, and I felt like I was dying inside. Every kick reminded me that I had to keep going, but I didn't know how. I moved out of the house. I couldn't sleep in that bed anymore. I found a small apartment near the hospital. I focused on surviving, on keeping myself and my baby alive. But as much as I tried to move on, I couldn't stop thinking about them, Mark and Lisa, playing house like I never existed. Then, one day, I heard through the grapevine, Lisa was pregnant too. That's when something inside me snapped. I did the math. The timeline didn't add up. If she was pregnant, it might not even be Mark's kid. That thought gave me a tiny bit of hope that maybe I could expose them for what they were. I started thinking about revenge, but not the petty kind. I wanted it to hurt. I reached out to Lisa, pretending I wanted to make peace, like I was ready to accept everything. She fell for it, because she always loved being the forgiving one, like she was some kind of saint. We met at a coffee shop. I acted like I wanted to start over. While we talked, I made sure to grab a used napkin she touched. A week later, I saw Mark at the grocery store. I cornered him and asked if we could talk. He was smug, acting like I was begging him to take me back. I played along. I hugged him goodbye, and when I did, I grabbed a hair off his coat. I sent the samples to a lab. I paid extra for a rush job. 2 weeks later, I had the results. The baby Lisa was carrying wasn't Mark's. I couldn't stop shaking when I saw the papers. It felt like the universe was finally on my side. But I wasn't ready to act just yet. I needed the perfect moment. That moment came when I got an invitation in the mail, Lisa's baby shower. It was being held at some fancy event space in Clayton, with a guest list full of family, friends, and people from Mark's work. They wanted to rub it in my face, make me the villain who got left behind. But I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I showed up that day with my lawyer, Sarah, who had been helping me prepare for a custody battle. I brought my coworker Karen, a nurse, who could back me up on medical details. And I carried a thick folder labeled DNA results, paternity dispute. The moment I stepped through the door, the room went dead silent. Lisa's smile dropped. Mark looked like he'd seen a ghost. And I hadn't even said a word yet. The second I walked in, the air in that room changed. People stopped mid-conversation. The clinking of glasses slowed. The fake smiles froze on faces. Mark's mom was there, holding a little plate of cake, and she just stared at me like I was some kind of ghost. Lisa sat there, center of attention in her little white dress, one hand on her belly, the other holding a glass of sparkling water. She looked up when she saw me, and I swear, the blood drained from her face. Mark? He looked like someone had knocked the wind out of him. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't waste time. I didn't want to give them a chance to control the story. I walked straight to the front of the room where the gift table was, set the folder down in front of them, and looked at Lisa dead in the eyes. "Congratulations on the baby," I said, my voice steady. "But you might want to open this first." The room was so quiet, you could have heard a pin drop. Lisa looked at Mark, like she was waiting for him to step in. But he was frozen, staring at the folder like it was a ticking bomb. So I opened it for them. I took out the DNA results, held them up so everyone could see the big, bold letters, probability of paternity, 0%. There were gasps. Some of their friends started whispering. Lisa's sister let out this awkward, half-laugh, half-choke sound. Mark's face twisted up. Confusion, anger, panic. He looked at Lisa like he didn't even know who she was anymore. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, his voice rising. Lisa stammered, "That's not possible. There must be some mistake." Sarah, my lawyer, stepped in then. Calm, collected, professional. "No mistake. We had the samples tested independently at 2 separate labs. The results match." She held up her own copy, just in case they wanted to argue. Lisa's hands started shaking. She looked at Mark, tried to grab his arm, but he jerked away like she was contagious. "It's not what it looks like," she tried to say, her voice cracking. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like," I cut in. My voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut through the noise starting to swell in the room. "Mark, while you were busy playing house with my best friend, she was busy screwing someone else behind your back. You left your pregnant wife for this." I could see the realization hitting him, hard. His face went pale. He looked at Lisa like he didn't recognize her, like he was realizing he'd ruined his entire life for a lie. And then Karen, my nurse friend, stepped forward. She pulled out a medical folder of her own and handed it to Lisa. "By the way," she said, her voice calm but firm, "you might want to get checked out." "The guy you've been seeing?" "Yeah, he tested positive for chlamydia." The silence in that room turned into an explosion. People were whispering, gasping, pulling out their phones. Lisa looked like she might pass out. Mark was shaking his head, like he couldn't process it all. And I just stood there, watching the two of them crumble in front of everyone. I wasn't done yet. I looked at Mark one last time and said, "You said I was a placeholder. Looks like you picked the wrong one to hold on to." Then I turned and walked out, leaving them to drown in the mess they'd made. But I wasn't finished, not yet. I walked out of that baby shower feeling like I could finally breathe again. It wasn't over, though. Not yet. There was still the matter of my divorce, custody of my baby, and what Mark owed me, because I wasn't going to let him slither away like a coward. A week later, Mark tried to call me. I ignored it. He texted, saying he needed to explain things and figure it out together. I didn't respond. Instead, my lawyer Sarah filed the divorce papers. Full custody of the baby, financial support, and a formal request for Mark to reimburse me for all the expenses I'd paid while he was out playing house with Lisa. Mark showed up at the hearing looking like he hadn't slept in days. He tried to play the victim, saying he'd been tricked by Lisa, that he didn't know she was seeing other men. The judge didn't care. We had proof. The DNA tests, the medical records, even text messages Sarah subpoenaed showing Lisa and some guy named Travis making plans behind Mark's back. Mark was ordered to pay child support. A lot of it. The judge wasn't gentle about it either. He called Mark's behavior reckless, selfish, and irresponsible. Mark's lawyer tried to argue for joint custody, but Sarah shut that down fast. The judge granted me sole custody. Lisa? She tried to reach out to me. Sent a message saying she never meant to hurt me, that she wished things could be different. I didn't respond. But karma didn't stop there. About 2 months after the baby shower, I heard through the grapevine that Lisa's baby wasn't just not Mark's, it wasn't even Travis's. She'd been seeing a guy who was married, a regular at the bar where she worked part-time. When the wife found out, she confronted Lisa, at the bar, in front of everyone. The wife slapped her so hard Lisa fell off her chair. Mark, meanwhile, got demoted at work. Turns out, his boss didn't think it looked good for a sales manager to leave his pregnant wife for her best friend, especially when it all became public on social media. He lost a few clients, too. Couldn't sell cars when people were whispering about what a snake he was. He started drinking more. I heard from mutual friends that he moved into some dingy one-bedroom apartment in the outskirts of St. Louis. He looked rough, gained weight, unshaven, just lost. As for me? I had my baby, my little girl. Healthy, strong, beautiful. I named her Grace, because after all of this, I needed a reminder that grace was possible. I went back to work. My coworkers rallied around me, especially Karen. We became close, real friends, not the fake kind like Lisa had been. One night, after Grace was born, I sat in my small apartment, rocking her to sleep, and I realized I was free. Free of Mark's lies. Free of Lisa's poison. Free of the weight I'd been carrying for years. Mark? He lost his family, his job, his reputation. Lisa? She was a single mom, working late shifts at the bar, no one to bail her out. Me? I had my baby. I had my career. I had my life back. And I didn't just survive. I thrived. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about that baby shower. About the moment I handed them that folder. I'd remember their faces. How the color drained, how the whisper started, how they couldn't look me in the eye. That was the moment I took my power back. And I've never let it go since.